Welcome to the Self-Storage Show, where I have conversations with my industry friends, talk with owners and vendors, and share tales about my management company, 3 Mile Storage. Let's go. Hey everyone, so I just finished putting together this new book, 3 Mile Storage Management, 3 Zones of Excellence. This is our framework for success in self-storage. Want a free copy? Okay, here's the deal. Book a strategy session with me. Together we're going to walk your business through the 3 Zones of Excellence framework. And I've done countless sessions like these over the years with many self-storage owners. I guarantee you that together, we're going to reveal some ways to increase your leads, rentals, and revenue. So go to 3milestorage.com and book your time today. Hi everyone, this is Jim Ross with the Self-Storage Show. I'm going to continue our little interview series we have going on here. Today I got Jason Myers with me. He's the owner and founder of Just Simple Storage. What's going on, Jason?
Hey, Jim, thanks for having me. Nice chat with you again today.
Oh, of course. I know we were doing our little pre-chat to see if you would be a guest on here, and you started talking about some stuff. I'm like, oh, wait, save it for the podcast. This is like perfect thing I want to talk about. But anyway, before we get into it, if you don't mind, just kind of give us a little Cliff Note bio version of you and what you do, and then we'll get into it here.
So quick background. So I actually started my real estate journey in 2015. I was a sophomore in college and bought my first investment property, single family home. Did some single family homes, slowly got into duplexes, 4 units, 8 units, kind of a small multifamily. And then at the start of 2021 is actually when we got to storage. We looked at our investments and realized, hey, there might be a better asset class to invest in that maybe doesn't have so many moving parts, and essentially sold off everything else we had and started to work on the storage portfolio. So we got 7 properties across 3 states right now, and just continuing to look to buy and build more.
How many properties?
So 7.
Oh, nice. That's a decent clip for that amount of time.
It was surprising how quick the acquisitions went, even between last year and this year. I know the market's changing pretty quickly in 2023, but we bought the same amount of properties this year as we did last year.
Really? Okay. So there is hope. I keep talking about it's like doom and gloom, like, okay, fine, it's reality, but there's still a definite lane that you can follow to find these properties. So you're doing it.
Yep. So you have to look out there, and there's a couple ways that we look at them to determine, is it a good deal? And I know a lot of people, at least ourselves, running into the situation where interest rates go up and naturally prices should come down, right? But that's not the case, right? Prices seem to keep going up or staying higher, and interest rates stay higher, but there's still deals out there. You just have to do a lot of digging to go find them.
Yeah. But again, it's worth it, isn't it? I mean, obviously, you get a little taste of storage. You're like, all right, I want more.
Yep. And then it starts snowballing. Yeah, it's been a really cool industry to be in. Again, we haven't been doing it for 2 years, but we've seen a lot of success in it. And I don't think we're planning to leave the industry anytime soon.
Well, that's awesome. So kind of tell me, what are you focusing on? What kind of kind of model, or what kind of sites kind of fit in your portfolio?
Yeah. So from an overall, I guess, strategy, so I'll kind of give you some background. So again, we started the business, call it January 2021, or excuse me, January 2022. And I lived in Wisconsin. My partner lived in Wisconsin. Then I actually moved to Dallas, Texas, July of 2022. So 6 months after we started the business. And at that point, I kind of looked at it saying, one, I either have to figure out how to run this business remotely, or 2, quit the business, right? There wasn't really any other options. I was moving to Dallas, thousands of miles away from our properties. And that was kind of right after the tailwinds of COVID, when any kind of real estate firm or any organization was figuring out how can we run this remotely or with not as much human contact.
Yep.
And I think that allowed us to see what other companies were doing, right? So you can do contactless move-ins, move-outs, rentals, things like that. So from the very beginning of when we started our business, we really just clung on to that idea of, hey, we can run these properties remotely. I think a lot of people prefer not to have to wait, meet someone in person to unlock their unit, show them around. They just want the combo for their lock, so I can move in whenever I please. Yep. So really grasping onto that remote first model for management was really helpful. And then that rolled into acquisitions. because again, our properties are all in the Midwest. I'm down in Dallas. I don't see any of the properties we buy. I think I saw 3 out of the 7, and I'm sure for the remaining ones we buy, I won't see them as well too.
That's so interesting. So you don't even see them. You're not physically going there and touching the dirt and feeling it. You're
Nope.
just that's awesome. Wow.
The most I see is Google Maps. So that's helpful. Sometimes, right, the image can be dated based on when they did the last drive around, but
Sure.
that's pretty much where we see it. Once we're under contract, we'll have kind of our regional manager go drive there in person, take a bunch of photos, bunch of videos. But outside of that, I mean, we can pretty much see what we need to see in photos and videos. And there's no, at least as of now, there's no point for us to go, for me, book a flight back home, get a rental car, go to drive to see it, and then do that all back home.
I love it. So it's not only just remote operations, but it's remote ownership kind of a thing. I love it.
Yeah, and that was like I always reference back to when we were doing single family or smaller apartments. You wouldn't be able to do that, right? In storage, it's generally non-climate, single story drive up storage, right? It's garage doors, metal roof, and the framing, right? There's not too much else to look at. But in apartments, there's toilets, there's kitchens, there's foundations, there's so much more to it where you'd want to see that in person because there's so much more that could go wrong or need maintenance.
Yep.
And storage a little bit more cut and dry.
A lot more moving parts. That's why, again, once people get a little taste of storage, we're like, all right, they kind of go pot committed. Like, nope, we're all into storage. I see it over and over again.
Yeah.
So people that listen to this, again, I know because of COVID, everyone started jumping on the contactless remote, but people have been doing this for quite a while. It's really nothing new, but it's just getting more of the spotlight on it, which I love because I think, like you kind of touched on, doing it this way, I think you provide better customer service than you did before. It's because you're being there when the customer wants to rent, be able to access it, and it forces a good customer experience on the website. If you don't mind, because again, I'm curious, I'm sure people are listening to this are kind of wondering, when you get a site, what's some of the steps that you're initially taking to get it into your kind of a remote managed model?
Yeah. So when you're under contract, obviously there's financial due diligence, make sure all the numbers work or were the same assumptions before you put it under contract. Sure. I think the biggest part that we really need to focus on is, since we've never seen the property in person, that when one of our employees goes there, that we do spend a lot of time ensuring the property's in the condition that we kind of expected it to be from photos, Google Earth, things like that. So we do have a pretty robust checklist because that might be the only time we ever see the property in our ownership. So that on-site inspection when we're under contract, super important to make sure we understand condition and then what is going to be the CapEx we need to put into it in the coming years. So we've never had a property where it goes under contract like, wow, this is way different than what we thought it was. It usually is within the range we were expecting, either great condition or need some work. But I would say that's the most important piece, of just understanding the condition of the asset. And then, given we're running these remotely, is as we're approaching closing, is understanding and trying to find who's going to be, we call it boots on the ground, right? So who's going to be that local person to help lock units, unlock units. Some people do want to tour their unit, right? There's a different generation that wants more of that hand holding. So how are we going to identify that person to help us? Because I can't do it. My other partners can't do it because they're hours away from it still. So it's really being lined up that when closing happens, we already have kind of a checklist of people who might be interested in that role, so that day one, someone can be there on the property to help us run it remotely.
Nice. I gotta ask, finding these boots on the ground guys, because it can be challenging sometimes. I was doing like 10 interviews yesterday for finding a site. Sure. Where are you finding them?
So out of the 7 properties we have, all 7 of them are tenants.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So we have done interviews, and maybe we just hit luck with all that. We have done interviews of local handyman and other individuals in the area, but what we've seen, especially where we own in the Midwest, I think there's a really strong pride of ownership. That's just how Midwest people kind of interact. So we're approaching them saying, hey, we know you rent here and you express interest in this role. they're going to take just as good a property or just as well care of the property that they would their own, right? Because when they drive up to their storage unit, they don't want weeds growing everywhere or if a tree branch is falling down, like they're going to take care of it just like it's their own. So it could be regional based, but we've seen that everyone who has done the role who rents there, like they do a fantastic job. We haven't had any, issues of doing the work or had to terminate anyone. So far it's been,
That's
I
great.
want to say not luck, but they've done a very good job at doing the role we lay out for them.
Oh, that's amazing. That's why I asked that, because again,
Mm.
I'm curious too, because I've kind of done both ways, of tenants and then hiring, just doing the whole cattle call kind of thing, that's
Yeah.
a whole other thing. But no, kudos. That's awesome. And yes, that's a little bit of luck. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's interesting when you buy it, and also note, right, the conversation from the previous owner. So a lot of the times, right, we're buying these properties, someone ran it themselves for 20 years, and we say, hey, we're from Madison, we're trying to buy a property 5 hours away.
yeah.
They don't quite understand that. They're like, what do you mean? How can you run this property being 5 hours away? You can tell there's a little bit of hesitancy to say, like, is Jason really going to care for this property? But it's walking them through. I can take care of it better because there's one person who is just responsible for, let's call it in-person maintenance, making sure the property's upkept. And then there's also a team that's just responsible for taking care of payments and questions over the phone. So instead of one person doing everything, we actually have special traits for each role, which I think actually supports those tenants better.
Yeah, and that's that's how I've explained when I've been telling people about the remote management model. Kind of same kind of thing. I have like the zones of excellence kind of things. Like, this is your
Sure.
call center, this is your customer service aspect zone, this is your maintenance, and then you got your management, and the management kind of ties everything all together. So it helps us separate it out that way.
I like the way you position that, because we've tried it where, hey, can someone be an expert in more than one field? In reality, usually not. We had it where, hey, I think you can be good at customer service and collections, or customer service and marketing. They end up being mid tier on both of them. Or you could hire two people, call it part-time or full-time, to be, center of excellence for each one, and having them kind of in their own role where they succeed at, I think is definitely the way to go, kind of like you mentioned.
Oh, totally. If you don't mind, because I know owners are listening to us going, okay, can you give me some for vendors? Do you mind, like, for like call center? Do you do it internally? Do you hire it out? What have you done for that?
So so right now we do our call center internally. So all inbound calls and all collection calls go through us. We do outsource that to the Philippines. We've seen that's really good talent out there to be managing those calls, and we actually get compliments from our tenants because, again, these people solely focus on answering phones. They know about their accounts. They talk to the same people every single month to kind of build that rapport again.
Yep.
The Midwest kind of likes that cozier introduction for that. And I think the biggest part that I've noticed, and actually comparing it to myself doing acquisitions, is there's a very low entry or barrier to entry, I feel like, in storage, especially in tertiary markets, is simply answering the phone. So
True.
I'll back up for a sec. I'm calling a lot of owners, right? Because we're trying to acquire more properties.
Sure.
And I bet if I would call 100 owners in Wisconsin, over half of them would not answer the phone. So simply by answering the phone on your Google business, you're going to beat out 50% of the competition, because I'm sure a tenant, if you don't answer, they're calling the site down the road. And if they answer, they're probably going to rent from you. So
isn't that mind blowing? I mean,
yeah,
I've been saying the same thing for 10 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't gotten any better, it seems like.
Yep.
And
So
it's crazy.
yeah, so to your point, like, not saying that an outsourced company or outsourced call center wouldn't do that, but I think keeping it in-house, you can manage, you have a lot more data to see what days are heavy call days, light call days. Do we need to double staff some days? Because again, just answer the phone, because someone might be upset about a situation that you want to resolve, or they just want to pay their rent and get a hold of you. So it's simple. Just answer the phones. I think that is an underrated thing in storage, especially when you're not in the heavier markets and the tertiary markets. They just want to talk to someone. Hey, help me out with your website, kind of things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty low barrier to entry on that point.
Oh, that's funny. I can talk about that till I'm blue in the face. It's like the same thing over and over again. It's like, Just answer the phone. It's not that
Yeah.
hard. There's real money on the other side of that phone
Yeah.
call. Just answer it. Anyway,
Yeah.
getting off track here. So I'm curious. So you do that, you get the call center going, you find the boots on the ground.
Mm.
Next step, signage. I mean, obviously, you got to have a good signage. A lot of these properties probably have little to none, but you want to get it your own branding, your own stuff. So have you figured that out to make it
You
worthwhile for
know,
signage?
we have our signage is pretty basic to start. We're doing business name, website, phone number, kind of the basics. I think the one thing we're trying to want to try in the future is QR codes. Again, someone drives by, scans the QR code, brings it right to the rental page.
Yeah.
I think for us, it's mainly the signage so they know who the new owner is. And I think this is obvious because you talk about it, Google business listings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tricky to get them moved over to the new owner, but I'm assuming, and you probably have more data on this than I do. I'm sure most people are finding storage rentals from doing a Google search of self-storage near me or something similar.
By far.
So yeah, so just making sure you have a good online presence. I think good signage. I think again, just the simple barrier to entry of like pull the weeds that are growing out in front of the doors or whatever it is, just make the property look clean for, again, the non-climate single story drive up. Someone just wants it to feel taken care of, like they're pulling into their own garage. That's the market we play in. So just make it clean, make it easily accessible. Again, it's not super hard, and that's why our business, Just Simple Storage, we try to keep things as simple as possible. It's easy to get complicated in this business and put in systems and technologies for everything, but we actually have been doing that where we're pulling back technologies because we're just trying to do so much when it's like, hold on, this is a pretty simple process and task. Let's just keep it simple. Maybe it's a little manual, but it's very simple. Let's keep it that way until it becomes an issue.
No, exactly. I mean, it's sometimes people get too fancy for their own good. They
Yeah.
get in their own way. And I'm
Yeah.
all for technology. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have to plug something in just for the sake of being on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Keep it simple and just implement, frankly. I mean, it starts with the phone calls. I mean, if you're not even doing that, yeah, everything else is
Out the window.
matter very much. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So what's your goals, kind of here in the future? Still acquiring?
Yeah. So I would say acquisitions and then also development. So we did a ground up construction earlier this year where we had a property, I think it had like 60 some units with land to develop more. So we added another 25,000 square feet to it. And it was a really fun project. My partner ran point on that, so I can't take credit for it, but it was cool seeing it from A to Z and now leasing up that building.
Nice.
So we're actively looking for land to develop and then just more acquisitions. I think when we started, and it's a good way for us to start, is we kind of bought all throughout Wisconsin, right? We didn't want to play in the major markets, so we wanted to stay tertiary, but as long as the numbers made sense in a deal, we were going to buy it. So right now we're kind of scattered throughout Wisconsin, which is fine because we run them remotely, but now getting a little bit more targeted to say, hey, let's try to buy within 30 minutes or 45 minutes from existing properties to build, a portfolio of 5 or 6 in an area so that when we exit, someone would want to do a portfolio sale instead of buying, 1s and 2s to sell the sites.
Gotcha. That was my next question. Do you have an end game? So it sounds like, do you have a plan to exit and sell and then move on? Huh? Good.
And I think if someone would say, hey, are you going to sell your sites? The answer is no, but I think it would be silly to not entertain that idea, right? Everyone needs to know what's next in it, right? We sell, but maybe we would buy land and develop one big site or roll into something else. So we're always open to seeing what is that exit. And while it's not baked out to a T, I think you always need to look at what's next or where can we roll this into, just because eventually you might have to exit unless you hold it until you pass it down to someone else.
No, of course. Everyone's got a price. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Well, this has been enlightening. I really appreciate you kind of telling me about your journey and how you guys are managing. I mean, I could talk about this kind of stuff all day long. This is my bread and butter for this kind of management. I love it. People that listen to this, are you willing to give out some information if they want to reach out to you and maybe get some more information on what you guys have going on?
Yeah, for sure. And I know we'll link some stuff in the show notes. We'll put my email down there. And then we actually recently launched a partnership program. So helping individuals who are looking to buy their first self-storage facility, don't really know where to start. We really want to give back. I've had a lot of good coaches in my life, and I think it's a good part to give back to other individuals who want to learn about storage. So if they go to jssmastery.com, we just launched like a partnership program. So looking to work with individuals who want to get into storage.
Don't bury the lead. That's awesome. That's,
Yep.
that's cool. So tell me a couple more minutes. Again, what is it again for this? This like a coaching thing, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a coach. We call it coaching / partnership because we're really having individuals learn the storage business step by step. So for us, the first part about storage is finding a deal, because without a property to evaluate, the rest of that entire process doesn't matter. So we're really working with them step by step as they progress in their self-storage journey. So step one is, let's help you build a list. Let's help you figure out how to market that list and find an interested seller. That is all we're going to focus on until we have an interested seller, we've negotiated a price, and now it's under contract. Now let's go more in depth about doing a pro forma, financial evaluation, things like that, right? Then next step, in-person due diligence, property inspections, etc. Right? So we don't need to teach you property management when we don't even have an interested buyer or seller for yourself. So I know a lot of the coaching programs out there, here's the A to Z of storage, consume it all, like drink it from the fire hose, and then hopefully it works out. Like, we want you to focus on where you're at in that stage so that you're worried about acquisitions when you're trying to buy, not how am I going to manage this, because that's not a worry for you yet. So we take it at each pace that each one of the students is going at. If someone's at step, due diligence, we're going to focus on that. But if someone's just starting, we're going to focus on marketing for them.
That's awesome. All right. Say it one more time. Where do they go to get information on that?
jssmastery.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, again, thanks so much for being, grateful for your time here. I learned something. Hopefully everyone else that's listening to this sparked a little something in you. So I appreciate it, Jason. We'll have to do this again, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate the time.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder. Do you want to level up your storage game? Visit theselfstorageshow.com. Grab some high-value freebies, check out top vendor spotlights, and stay in the loop with our newsletter. Do you want to chat about becoming a client with 3 Mile Storage Management? All the info's there. Plus, if you've got a story to share, we're listening. Everything you need is at theselfstorageshow.com.